Welcome to Bourbon and Brand, everybody, the best web series on the internet, hosted by the dudes from Huck Finch.
We're going to distill all your questions about branding down into actionable, practical tips while we enjoy America's only native spirit, bourbon. And today we're going to enjoy ourselves some Fox River here, courtesy of Arbor Distilling Company.
And we're going to tackle a topic about how things not going according to plan sometimes isn't that bad.
Yeah, which is the funny thing about this episode is that it's literally filmed on the eve of our 1 year anniversary of going full time into Huck Finch.
Yeah, speaking of not really having a plan or things not going according to plan, this
Exactly.
was actually not developed to be launched 1 year from the anniversary. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, right? Because I think when we just say it's the 1 year anniversary, everyone's like, wow, you guys took the time, decided that this is time to jump into it. Didn't exactly happen that way, did it?
Not at all. I don't even think last week we knew if we were going to film this episode or not. So it's pretty cool to be sitting here, and it's kind of like a really fun, happy accident that did come from a long line of an actual plan. This just specific thing wasn't really on it.
Right, yeah. So to spare ourselves from shit talking anybody
Right.
and why this didn't go according to plan, we won't talk about it. But if you do find us on the streets, hit us up, let us know, ask us how this all came about, and if you buy the bourbon, we'll definitely tell you about it. But
Right, cost of admission.
yeah, exactly. That's the story is so good, so entertaining.
Yeah.
That the very least you can do is spend $10 a glass on bourbon for us.
Absolutely. And we always want the best part of the show to not actually be on the show. Just try to create this aura of a compelling story that you can't even believe that we never tell on
There's
the show.
mystique to
You have
it.
you have to find us in person.
By the way, this is really good bourbon.
It is great. I think one of the things I was most worried about is I don't really know bourbons that well, to taste profile. So hadn't had this bourbon straight in at least a while, if not ever, outside of an old fashioned. So I was a little worried that the first scene of this show would be me choking on a bourbon, but it's great.
Yeah, I was definitely worried about this episode being kind of rough because we would just be not enjoying this bourbon
Right.
at all.
And it'll probably be still pretty rough for the first episode.
Yeah.
So we'll get
we,
through it.
We were very generous with the pour, as you can see. This is
Yeah.
from one pour, so a
Yeah.
bottle is going to last us maybe 4 episodes.
Yeah, that's the thing that they don't talk about is you film the B-roll parts of the show before where you mess up the pour and then you have to drink the bourbon. So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that for this first episode.
Well, anyways, why don't we get back onto the plan?
Yeah.
The plan of talking about how things.
Apropos. Yeah.
Yeah. You see what I did there?
I did. This is why you're the facilitator. Yeah.
So getting back to the idea of talking about planning, since this is the 1 year anniversary. Also, it's the end of 2019, so we've been spending the week planning for 2020. While things there were highs, there were lows for 2019 for us and Huck Finch, and just personally, it was a really exciting year. I think we're both super excited about what's coming next year.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking this question, obviously outside of the show. I think it's a natural thing to ask, other people in the industry, other people in other industries, how'd the year go for you? And my first answer has always been, we're still here. And I think for anybody out there who has started something new or started something at all, that's a goal worth
That should
celebrating.
resonate.
And it should be on the plan. Somewhere in the plan should be you still exist, because it gets taken for granted, I think.
Yeah.
Like this business that we're launching for 200 years, our grandchildren's children are going to be operating Huck Finch, but obviously that's not a given, and 1 year isn't either. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my first point of pride when I get asked
Yeah,
that question.
we have a calendar event that literally says one year anniversary.
We did, which that obviously was planned. I think you must have done that because it popped up. And it came real early in the morning. I was like, what the hell? Am I supposed to be somewhere? Oh no, this is cool. What a good reminder.
Nice little reminder.
Yeah.
But even though things didn't go according to plan,
Yeah.
as I've already mentioned, things were up and down, and we've enjoyed some success this year and afforded us the opportunity to still stay here, like
Yeah.
you said. It still is worth noting that you should have a plan, because I think that's a major reason why we are still here, is because even though things started off a little rocky and kind of a surprise,
Yeah.
we were able to kind of fall back on this thing that we created to start figuring out like, okay, this is sooner than we wanted, but this is what we got to do,
Yeah.
and let's just go do it.
Yeah, you mentioned you should have a plan, and that there's like an important distinction there between like just winging it and things might not go according to plan, and actually having a plan and kind of adjusting along the way. I think, we did have a plan. It didn't go exactly correctly, but also knowing that it probably wouldn't from the get-go, we kind of had to scramble to do it together. But one important thing though, we didn't. The big part of the thing that was unplanned was like the day of like launch, and like were we all perfectly ready? But
Because we always knew we wanted to do this
absolutely,
full time. No matter
absolutely,
what.
and like in hindsight, it's like the Band-Aid gets sort of like ripped off, like, and if you're an entrepreneur of any sort, like it's in a way, it's like you're going to have that sink or swim moment, regardless of you had like 6 months of like an overabundance of prep time or not.
Yeah.
I think it probably still feels about the same way, whether you rip the Band-Aid off or some other scenario or circumstance does. It's still like that moment where it's like, this is happening, like not in a like part-time or sort of like easing into it sort of way. Like it's real now, and there's some huge advantage to that, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think like like I said, like there was always the goal to go full time to Huck Finch.
Yeah.
So the things that we did to think it through strategically, we'll think about what would we need financially to do it, like what would we need to charge on an hourly rate.
Yep.
Even more long term was like we knew that we didn't want to grow the team beyond really the two of us. So
Mhm.
how do we scale the business long term and get that into the plan as well? And then I think the other part about this was that it allowed us to think about who we wanted to go after, what we wanted to sell.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a service-based business, you can get in that trap of saying yes to things that you don't want to do, and that's not really what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That can be an entirely
For sure.
its own episode of being
Yeah.
able to say no to shit that you don't want to do.
Yep.
But that was something that we were very intentional from the get-go. So we had a lot of pieces, a lot of bricks laid down for the foundation of the business. So even though things started maybe a little kicked off a little sooner than we needed, we were starting with a solid base, and we really just needed to go out there to like get that financial goal that we needed to keep the lights on and
Yep.
pay ourselves some money to afford a great bourbon.
Right. Yeah, it gets back to the part about like you should have a plan though, because I keep thinking about like there's some milestone things at least that we did hit along the way, and I think if you don't have those things, it can be really hard to tell if you're like building the business or not, because there's the one obvious metric that always exists, which is like how much money is in the bank, and that's like it's a necessity sort of thing that has to happen for all businesses. But there are like other things that we had in there, even down to like how there's like twice this year in our first year, we're gonna do a weird thing, which is like kind of shut it down for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like that was one of these things that kind of came from like lessons learned from our like previous experiences, which is
And from our podcast, shameless plug.
yeah, for sure. And if we don't do this thing now and kind of bake this into what our business is, like it's very unlikely that would be a thing that just happens when we have clients knocking at our door constantly. Like it's much harder to like turn that down. Just like, no, this is kind of a staple of who we are. We know this is going to be a small thing that's like almost primarily going to be you and I trying to do all this, but the sustainability of that, just knowing like coming from places where we work 70 hours a week to do something and just getting to that burnout, that we were able to at least protect against that for this business, even when there was like no money in the bank and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you saying that reminds me of a conversation that I had with one of our clients actually about the flip side of things, where you're just constantly on the grind to the point basically hoping that you get to a point where you can create a plan.
Yep.
And he talked about how he went to a Tony Robbins seminar earlier in the year, and Tony Robbins, being who he is, had sage advice and to everybody. And what he got out of that was a light bulb moment of, you know, if you are making $100 and you can't give $100 now, you won't give $1,000 when you make $100,000 or
Right.
whatever it is. So
Yep.
whatever you need to do, you got to still take the action, but you need a plan in place. Kind of like you said, like we had the plan in place that no matter what, we're taking 2 weeks off
Yep.
in the year for the spring and the winter to do stuff and just recharge the battery and just, you know, assess where we are. Are we on path? Did we detour too far off of our plan? But I think the reason why I brought this up was the fact that this guy knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to turn the brand into something where he can give back to the community, give back to his
Yeah.
employees. He just never took the time to create a plan for it. And for the last 12 months, he's just been overwhelmed with this belief that like he has failed in some way, because he's like, I want to do this thing, and I thought I needed to like lay this like following Maslow's hierarchy, almost like I need to lay this like these needs first before I can think of a plan.
Yep.
He's like, I've been waiting on this too long, which is why he started to work with us. Was like, I need to create that plan now.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I need to do, because I can't just dream about this anymore.
Yeah, and like you told me that story when it happened. I wasn't like in that conversation directly, but it does in terms of this like planning part. And to tie back into the shameless plug for the podcast, one of the questions that we ask, just out of like personal curiosity from both of us, is what is success to you? And you know, for me, there's this like philosophical like background of it that was always the best definition, which is just like hitting what you aim at. And even if you don't hit it on the timeline that you hoped for or expected to or whatever, you do know if you missed it, you can probably figure out why, and you do know when you hit it as well. And it's just kind of like that always stuck with me, like the necessity for the plan there. And it can change, but at least then you know why. You know you've hit like 50% of it or some version. You've hit some steps along the way. And especially for entrepreneurs, especially early on, those things matter like so much, to have something to look at other than the bank account.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the stuff that like fuels you, and you can drag a few extra hours of energy out, because you like believe in those things. Those are part of the version of success for you. And for us, I know it's like more important. Like we came from a place where we both made more money than maybe we expected to, certainly more than we grew up with.
A lot of people would be very happy with the salary that we both made.
Yeah, but that was missing. So our plan had other things in addition to that, you know, and sometimes you can check those things off before the bank account is flush with cash, you know, like those types of things can take different periods of time to build. But there are some things like, you know, we just keep mentioning like that time off piece, which is just kind of an indicator that like we can do this without going out of business. Like that makes me feel pretty good. I don't have $2 million in the bank account to spend, but this is a thing we talked about doing and that we believed in. We're both doing it.
Yeah.
Like this feels right. This feels good that we're able to check some of those things off that we, you know, there's a couple of things like you talked about knowing what we wanted to do and what we didn't. And we were able to look at each other, and even though there was money attached to it, say, we talked about this.
Yeah.
This is like I guess a sellout moment or not, and we were able to hold to that even though, you know, we could have used the money at the time. Those things, just like in this retrospective way, you don't get time to think about too much in the day to day. But as we have this conversation, it looks back, it's like we really did hold to some things that we said were important. And one of the key things that, you know, isn't like a task checklist part of the plan, but we didn't want to take all the risk and all the work and heartache to build our own business and build it into something that we didn't want to work at.
Yeah.
Like that, like what is the point? You can take no risk or far less risk and go work for somebody else if you are just kind of fine with that. But for us, it's like, if we're gonna do this, you know, crazy thing, let's make sure it's the place that we want to build and that we want to work at.
Yeah, and a lot of things that lead to a great plan that we can't get to, and we wouldn't be able to do justice, especially with the amount of bourbon we have left,
Right.
are things like that allows us to have the intentionality and this like following this purpose that we have, was obviously having a very clear vision for what we wanted for the company, of not turning into something like growing this thing to 25, 30, 50 people, and then a decade from now, people saying, you did a great job, this is awesome, and us saying like, we didn't want to be here, this is not
Right.
what we wanted at
Right.
all. So having that vision is very clear, important, but we can talk about this some other time. Then having a strategy to bring that plan and vision to life.
Yep.
Obviously, purpose is very important to us since we want to work with purpose-driven
Yep.
companies. But as we talked about it, we talked about the idea of plans don't go according to what you wanted to do, things happen. Wanted to get into the idea of like what happened this year that was eye-opening or like a piece of wisdom or something you learned. I feel like I should start this because
Yeah.
I've been pacing us in the bourbon, I think, and I want you to be able to catch up.
Yeah.
Give you a chance to enjoy.
This is just like the manliness part of me. I'm like, I think my pour is a little heavier than yours.
To give you a chance to catch up. But for myself, like I think we both like always like believe this, but to see it in real life, again, referencing back to the podcast, David Klingenberger, the founder of the Brinery, who makes great sauerkraut, great fermented food, honestly the best, like kimchi. Talking about the idea of social capitalism. I think the thing I really learned this year was how giving the people in our community has been to supporting us, because we were very intentional about we're gonna start here, build a brand here. You know, if we can't do it here, then how the hell can we get anybody not here? And for the most part, like if you treat others really well, like people will want to see you be successful. And that has been very true. Like it just feels like a lot of people have gone out of their way, like to make sure that we were successful, sending work our way, recommending us, talking about us.
Yeah.
When the reality is, like, they don't know anything about the work that we put out. They just like us as people. They connect with us as people, and feel like we're like-minded. And it'd be stupid to say that we got here to where we have without anybody else supporting us. Like, you know, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, a bunch of bullshit like that. When this took a village to get us where we are, and that's something I really learned this year, was like how much of a village it took to get Huck Finch to the end of 2019.
Yeah, and you know, as you mentioned that too, it just made me think about, you know, in other jobs and other things like that, it felt very like sort of isolated outside of the business from the community. And I'll have a different point, but what yours made me think of is just like that just general importance of community. Like I'm largely introverted, so it takes like a big move to get me to a networking event. I always enjoy it when I'm there.
Right.
But like, you know, I have to like, it's like working out. So
this show is a creation due to our introversion.
Right.
We hate the idea of going out and talking to people, which is weird for two business owners.
Yeah.
But, sorry.
No, it's fine. But like just thinking about like truly like those relationships and things by just going to those places. And not just them helping like from a business standpoint, but like being able to open up this like channel that didn't exist at all in the same city that we've been in before has been really, really cool. So I just wanted to kind of add that on, like aside from the business effects of it, it's just like feels like a more sort of complete way to just exist.
Yeah.
And that's been its own sort of reward.
Yeah. And for all of you who supported Huck Finch, you know who you are. We love you. You
Yes.
guys are the best.
Absolutely. You can always swing by this show, and we'll give you some free bourbon.
Yeah, the bourbon's on us, for sure.
We can't offer anything else. For me, it's kind of hard to narrow down because I think there's so many lessons learned. But like, if I really think personally, I think there's a lot of self-doubt when you're starting something new, even if you've like prepared for it for a really long time and watched every YouTube video and taken every course, or you have academic background in it, whatever it is, inevitably self-doubt or imposter syndrome or whatever is going to sneak in. And for me, the way through that has been, you know, just caring so much about what we're trying to do, even when it's not like super crystal clear what it is. Where we're headed is crystal clear. So for me, the big lesson in year one has been just the consistency of like showing up every day. Like, even if what you made isn't able to go out to a client, or it's not like a perfectly polished thing that you're 100% proud of. Like what really has mattered is every day just getting, it's the cliche things that we end up talking about, but like getting a little bit better and just doing it and putting stuff out there.
That
like,
1% idea.
Yeah, it's cliche and so true, but in my sarcastic mind, I'm like, I'm not gonna do a cliche thing for this, but it really is, and what that like really looks like is just building your routine around doing different things that build the business, like those tenets of whatever it is, like getting practiced at whatever your craft is, but also just literally like the 80% of it is showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets back to like the bank account thing. Like some days that's hard, right? Like you're not getting the reward you've been used to getting by just like kind of going to your cubicle or whatever version of that is.
Right.
When you're starting something, like you have to show up either way. And that's just been really rewarding, even in days where you fail, like a year looking back, the consistency of just showing up and, part of the failure of doing that has been like really a good life lesson, because it's, the cliche things are always written down and told to you, but living it and having it like actually get reaffirmed is a really nice thing. And then
Right.
the financial stuff just sort of comes as a byproduct of that, but it feels really good to do that type of work, and have that type of commitment and I guess purpose built into it.
Yeah.
So every day is not a passionate, like, we love kite surfing and we just kite surfed until
Right.
people started paying us. Like, it's not quite that.
Yeah.
A lot of the days are not super passion filled. It's just showing up, knowing, understanding where you're trying to go.
I think at the same time, like, it's worth mentioning, and I love that you mentioned this, because even to this day, like where we are right now, like that doubt still creeps in very much of like,
For sure.
like, are we doing the right thing? Is this going to be successful? So anybody who like tries to convince you that like you're going to get to a point where like it's just pure confidence, like after that everything's going to be cool, I think it's a bunch of bullshit, because it's essentially like, it's the idea of you become fearless, where you don't want to be fearless, you just want to be able to like have the courage to overcome that fear. And
Yeah.
I think thinking about that 1% of doing that little thing every single day, having a sense of curiosity, wanting to grow, wanting to be better, being able to like be mindful and aware to like always go back to these little things.
Yeah.
They help you kind of overcome like the stress and the struggles and the hair pulling out,
Right.
all the shit that
Yeah.
every entrepreneur goes through and deals with, because it's been a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot that we're not touching on. We don't want to gloss over the fact that like, boom, we started, everything was cool, we made all the
Yeah.
money in the world, we made it rain.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is like, that's not true. Like
Right.
we don't want to like convince anybody otherwise. Like, yeah, we've had a great year, but it's because of having to every day, do that 1%, that reminder, relying on our community to support us,
Yeah.
to get us to where we are,
Yeah.
which is a perfect segue into what we're calling the last sip, because
Yeah.
I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I think I caught up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you're very
Your
much caught up.
ice is like much sturdier than my ice
Yeah.
is gone.
I don't know what's going on with the
Yeah.
ice. This might not be real ice. So I'm a little bit nervous about drinking the last sip here. But I think it leads perfectly into the last sip, which, as we mentioned at the top, it's the end of 2019.
Yep.
We've spent this entire week really planning 2020, thinking about the things we want to do. So what's one thing you're really, really excited about in 2020?
Yeah, I think this was pretty easy for me thinking about it. There are a lot of things on this list, but the thing that I'm most excited about, because there are two of us, like one of the innate, problems we always knew that we would have is, how do two people have the most impact? And for us, we work with a lot of early stage companies, people that are trying something new, and
Where every dollar counts.
yeah, there's not always a lot of money in the bank account.
Oh, our lights just
Boom.
turned off. This is kind of cool. So that's funny.
Boom. So, speaking of not going according to plan.
Yeah, right? That was not planned.
That's
right?
all-
Yeah.
My answer was so good that the lights
Lights
went
went
out.
out.
But, was thinking about like how do we impact a lot of people with what we do. One of the reasons we started this was because it's really expensive to hire a lot of branding agencies, and it sort of prices out startups and new ideas, or for their budget they get like a tiny piece of the pie of what they actually need. And even for us, like keeping the lights on, there's a certain amount you have to make.
Yeah.
And for us, like looking forward to kind of creating some like online courses and some tools that can be like really low cost or even free in some respects to just help people move it that can't hire us directly, either because of price or we're unavailable or they're in Guam or whatever it might be. That's really exciting to me because that's ultimately the impact that we wanted to have, is to make sure like businesses start, they understand their purpose, they understand why they exist. So the idea of someone at 4 a.m., like getting woken up, like we both have had happen, and maybe like, putting on a course or something like that, and identifying their purpose clearly and getting sort of inspired by doing that work themselves, is really exciting for me. That's just like a really cool thing that I'm looking forward to creating, and hopefully 7 people in the world will be into it and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think one of our core tenets from the very get-go was great businesses that don't have money should never be priced out of a great brand.
Yep.
So like that, we're again back to the plan intentionality thing, is like,
Yep.
how can we continue to serve these people without putting ourselves out of business?
Yep.
And I'm really excited about working on those things too. So you guys are excited about it. Definitely keep watching, follow the journey, join our mailing list.
For sure.
And you'll find more about them. Oh, that wasn't planned.
You gotta take that last
Yeah,
sip, man.
no, that's it. So the thing that I'm most excited about, I think it relates to this, is continuing to serve people outside of our community too.
Yeah.
Because I think, like we talked about, the plan was to essentially micro influence this area.
Yep.
Us MVP it, saying, in person, if we can't get people on board with what we're all about, how we do things here, with them in the room with us, there's no way we're going to get somebody in California, someone in Seattle, Austin, whatever. And I'm really excited about this year investing the time and energy and the money, obviously, to getting people outside of our immediate circle. The sixth ring of Kevin Bacon,
Right.
Basically.
Well, I think we actually want to get Kevin Bacon as a client.
Yeah.
So Kevin, if you're out there, it's just Kevin and our 2 moms, I think, that watch this at this point. But
yeah, we're gonna tag Kevin Bacon to this episode.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, like, to get people outside who just can't immediately refer us to people to say, like, if you want to build a purpose-driven brand, if you don't know where to go, you don't have to talk to your staff, you don't feel confident that you can hand off your business to somebody to keep it going, this thing that you built.
Yeah.
You're not creating that tribe community that you want, to have us serve them, because like at the end of the day, like, this isn't about making money for us,
Right.
Because we talked about already, we make good money where we
left. We kind. I mean, at least for this first part, especially, like, we left the money.
Yeah.
To try to do this because we knew, it's not some grandiose thing. It was just literally the case that we both kind of like finished our academic careers or whatever, and kind of got to the point that we were probably thinking in our heads financially, like, everything's gonna be like awesome at that point, and it just wasn't awesome.
Yeah.
So these other things became more important to us, and I think we're both like overlapping, which is a good feeling.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, we're kind of searching for these other things as well to kind of round that out.
Yeah, this episode could have gone an entirely different way if we didn't line up.
Yeah.
But like being able to
The Jerry Springer ending to this
yeah,
episode.
exactly. But yeah, being excited about that and being able to continue to serve, because the more customers that we can get, more partners that we can get that align with what we want to do, the more we can continue to do things like create products and tools to serve those who couldn't afford us, and be able to give our service away, to continue to do that with Scouts Honor, which we do, to like nonprofits or just these like social driven companies, again, who deserve a great brand. It's not, I keep going back to that, it's a sense of frustration of, like, you shouldn't have to be a $1 billion company to have an awesome brand that's out there and people know, like Matthew's Bonfire Barbecue. People should know about Bonfire Barbecue
Yeah.
because it's a cool brand and a lot of people would support it.
Yep, yeah, and go find them. Google that.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to do, but yeah, I think it's nice to hear that overlap. Like this was a certainly unscripted like segment of the episode. I don't think either of us knew what the other was going to say, but ultimately, our job is to help people with really good ideas that have a really cool product or are on their way to a really cool product, just like put themselves and express themselves accurately in the world and find their people.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's that, and doing that for as many people as we can, regardless of the financial impact to us. Like, that's how we, like, it's scaling that. It's not becoming some sort of like a, unicorn scenario for it, but it's like, that's the thing. Like, people that don't look at their company websites and don't recognize the description of the company, like they look at the about page and they see a bunch of things there and they're like, I work here,
Right.
and I don't recognize those things. Like helping to reconcile that just is, I think, both at the heart of like why this is a thing for us, why we are doing the type of work that we do. So just excited to do that for as many people as we possibly can, whether we never know that we did that or not.
Mm-hmm.
The compounding effects are it's an exciting thing to think about, that someone did like one little tiny piece of something that we talked about here or elsewhere, and it helped them do all the other awesome things that we could not help them with, right?
Right.
Like that, like is their unique skill set or their unique offering for the world. So looking forward to doing that for as many people as we can in 2020.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool for anybody who does see this, Kevin Bacon and our moms,
Yeah.
and whoever else is out there, to comment like what you're working on, the impact that you want to have. Just share it with people. That's
Yeah.
how we got that community thing we talk so much about. You have to say it out loud.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
if it's not perfect, let people know what you're doing, what impact you're trying to have.
Yeah, and it should be said that we're also very excited about doing more of these shows.
Yeah.
And drinking this awesome bourbon.
Yeah.
Looks like we're both at the end of our glasses here, so I think we'll distill things down to things won't go according to plan, but you should have a plan. Really start with the purpose of what you want to do, having a vision for that,
Yep.
and every day just one little thing. Just keep going, keep trucking, and you'll get to where you want to be. Things will go off rails, but you'll get back. You need any support, you come to these two random dudes that you may or may not know.
Yep.
Kevin, we're looking at you,
Mhm.
and we'll be there to support you. But till then, I don't know if you have any other last words, but
No.
I'm going to say cheers to the New Year's.
Cheers to New Year's. Cheers to Kevin Bacon. Cheers to this being the first episode. We have talked about this for a really long time, so it's exciting to just film this and get it out into the world. Thanks to anyone who took the time to listen. Let us know what you might be interested in us talking about next time, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Peace out.
Cheers. Thanks for watching another episode of Bourbon and Brand. Be sure to leave your questions in comments below so we can get to them in a future episode.
And make sure to subscribe to the show by clicking subscribe below and turn on the bell to get notified of all future episodes of the greatest freaking show about bourbon and branding. Cheers.